Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? This may be really obvious, but life can be really overwhelming. It can be really difficult to navigate. And if you're like me, there are those times when it feels like it's just all too much. And, you know, life itself is like contradictory. And what I mean by that is the world is a beautiful place, but it's also an awful place. There are things that we experience that happen that take our breath away, that are wonderful and amazing and just so profound, and these beautiful experiences we can have. But at the same time, you don't have to look very far to find the horror and the despair in life. And we can experience those things directly, or we can see them in the larger picture. And, just coming to terms with that contradiction can be overwhelming in and of itself. And something like the Serenity Prayer, the purpose of this video is not spiritual or religious or anything like that, but looking at the concept embodied in that, where you're looking for the acceptance, the serenity to accept the things you cannot change, which is most of life, most of the world, most circumstances, because they're so much bigger than us. And having the courage to change the things we can, which is generally a much smaller group. What can I do to affect change, in my own local area? Much, much smaller. Realizing what the difference between those two is, that's huge in terms of being able to navigate life successfully, so we don't just go off the edge, because it's very easy to start to go off the edge. I don't know about you, but I can get stuck. I can get stuck in looking at the global problems, at the world's problems, because you don't have to look very far to see injustice and unfairness and things that are horrific. And I don't need to name them. You can name them for yourselves. They're out there, and they're staring us in the face all the time. And it can be so easy to have our happiness, our well-being, dependent on things that are, manifestly outside of our control. And this is not a healthy way to manage life. At least not for me, it isn't. Because it pulls in these depths of despair. And if I don't have any kind of levers, if I don't have any control over this, that's not a good place to put myself into. Shifting the determiners of my mood to the things that are within my reach is generally a much better strategy. Looking at the things that I can control, or at least have some kind of effect on in my own life. What can I do to make my own circumstances better? What can I do to affect the best possible environment for the people I love? Like, can I make the world a little bit better for those around me? What does contact with me produce? Focusing on areas like that, for me, is definitely a lot more helpful, where my mood isn't just dependent upon all these forces outside of my reach, but, on what I'm actually doing. And believe me, this is not easy. And this doesn't mean that we hide from the bigger issues. There is this balance that I'm still working on in terms of focusing on what I can actually change on my own little corner of the world, but not ignoring the bigger issues. Speaking out when I need to speak out, even if I know that I'm probably not going to have any effect, but just standing up and not letting evil triumph because good men have done nothing, that sort of thing. But not, doing that, speaking out, but not letting it dominate, or not letting my peace of mind be dependent upon those bigger things. Finding that balance is something that I'm still working on. It is not an easy balance to find by any means. And it's not something you figure out, in a day. And there's no real magical formula for figuring that either. At least I haven't found one. It's just kind of like day by day navigation of life. And just trying to change perspective, or maintain a perspective, a healthy perspective, from day to day. And I wish I could tell you, I wish this was a video could tell you, and this is how you do it. It's not this video. This isn't that. But there's times also that I notice an imbalance in my own life. And for me, the biggest warning sign is when I start feeling like I'm just trying to get through each day. I'm not enjoying the days. I'm not enjoying my times and various activities. I'm just seeing as everything as a task, and I'm just trying to get through it to the other side. Am I trying to just get back to bed? Get to the point where I can numb myself out by doing something. And, I no longer numb myself out with substances. And for a long time in active addiction, that's what life was like. I was just trying to get through the day till I could get back to oblivion because I couldn't handle life or my own emotions. And that was a horrible existence. I'm not there, thank goodness. But I can get myself in that same predicament mentally. And when I start to notice that, that's a sign that something's wrong and something's causing the imbalance. And it could be, being dissatisfied with your job, which I talk about an awful lot lately. Some kind of relationship issues or strain, or some kind of, neglecting of our mental health in some way, shape, or form. Is there something that I should be doing that I'm not doing? And I don't necessarily mean the thing that I should be doing because, society says I should be doing it. Is there something I'm neglecting in terms of I'm just in the wrong place? I'm doing the wrong job. I'm neglecting my passions or the things that make life worth living. Or I'm ignoring red flags in my relationships, and my relationships right now are great. Is there something like that I'm ignoring? Am I ignoring my health? Physical, mental, that feeling of just needing to get through the day is usually a pretty good indicator that there's something I'm ignoring. I'm ignoring the things that I can change. And is there some kind of fear of change or fear of risk, or, is that holding me back from making those changes I need to? Or am I just focusing on all these things that I can't change, or I can't change immediately? I can't get out of debt immediately. I can't change the state of the world. I can't, quit my job immediately. All those kind of things. Those are reality checks. Usually, I can see that I'm focusing on those things, or that's got my attention, and therefore that's causing me a lot of discomfort. And, in my experience, big differences come from small changes. I wish it was different. I really do. I was just talking to somebody today about the 12 plus years of recovery I have and the changes in my perspective. And every day that I did those small things that we do in recovery, there wasn't a big change at the end of the day. I still felt pretty crappy. Looking back now, having years of experience, I can say that I've come a long way. So those small changes did add up to a big difference, but it took time, and there's no real magical way to get there faster. So, focusing too much on the big world can cause like a mental strain. Ignoring just doing those next little things and changing things you can also cause that same level of strain and make life so much more difficult, so much harder to endure. And trust me, I understand not wanting to do those things. I really do. Can I just hide and let this feeling end? But I'm here to tell you, it won't necessarily end if you're ignoring the things that you need to do to make your life better. There's no perfect fix. There really isn't. There's just today, and what do you do with today? Don't get so hung up on the things that you can't change. Do something. Doesn't have to be everything. Just do something, towards the things that you can change. That'll make your life a little bit better. That'll make the lives of those around you a little bit better. So that makes it easier to be you. And those little things that make all the difference. I wish there was a bigger magic formula or just a switch in perspective we could do in 1 second. And I don't think there is. But not ignoring those warning signs that something's amiss, that something's wrong, really important. If you need to take care of your mental health, your physical health, some glaring problem in your life, take care of it. And don't give up. Life is hard. We just have to be harder. Doesn't have to mean we have to be callous. We just need to show up every day and just keep plugging at it. That's all. Have a good one, kids.